You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start with a huge playoff upset in the NBA. An upset that no one saw coming. I mean, even if you are a Magic fan, there's no way you saw this coming. The Magic beating the Bucks 122-110. I thought the Bucks were going to sweep the Magic. I didn't think they deserved to be in the same universe as the Bucks. I mean, I thought this was a crazy mismatch, but hey, give the Magic credit. They played great. They got contributions from up and down the lineup. Nikola Vujovic had the best game I've ever seen him have. And I like Vujovic. But he had 35 points and 14 rebounds. He was 5 for 8 from beyond the arc. If you'd have told me that Nikola Vujovic was going to be the high man in this game, I'd have said you were crazy. Terrence Ross had a really good game. Markelle Fultz had a really good game, which is great to see. I'm rooting for him hard. Gary Clark coming out of nowhere and putting up a 15-point game. You've got to be kidding me. This guy's a nobody. I hope you had Gary Clark on your NBA daily fantasy team. This year, in the regular season, Clark was averaging under 4 points a game, 2.5 rebounds per game, and half an assist per game. He went 15-6. James Ennis, 11-8. DJ Augustine, a double-double off the bench. 11 points and 11 assists. If you saw this coming, I hope you played Lotto. This was the best game the Magic have played all year. Their defense was on point. The Bucks, a great shooting team. A team that made the 4th most threes out of any team in the NBA this year in terms of three-pointers made per game. Were limited to just 33% from beyond the arc. 14 for 42. No one shot the ball well for the Bucks. No one. Giannis did his thing. But when Giannis was driving and dishing, or it was just a set play for one of the shooters, they were bricking it. Chris Middleton was terrible. 4 for 12 from the field, 2 for 6 from beyond the arc. That can't happen. Brook Lopez, 2 for 9 from the field, 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. That can't happen. Eric Bledsoe, 1 for 5 from beyond the arc. Inexcusable. Dante DiVincenzo, 1 for 6 from the field. Pat Connaughton, 1 for 4 from beyond the arc. No Buck played well yesterday, with the exception of Giannis. You know, we keep hearing that all it takes is a star. And he can elevate a good, not great roster. And that's all you need to win. No. Sometimes that works. Sometimes. Dirk Nowitzki's Mavericks when they beat the Heat. Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors, you can make that argument. But other than that, can you really think of one? Can you think of a team that had just one great player and a bunch of role players win an NBA title? I mean, this is the picture-perfect example of a team with a great player, a transcendent player in Giannis, and a really good supporting cast getting beaten by a team of good, not great players. I don't think there's anyone on the Magic who I would call great. Maybe Vujovic, if I'm being really, really generous. Look, I think Vujovic is in the top half of centers in the NBA. Maybe top 10, but calling him great would be pushing it. You'd have a really tough time convincing me of that. I like Vujovic, but I don't think I'd call him great. The one thing I'll say is you can't expect the Bucks to go this dry 3 more times. That's a really tough ask. The Magic played really good defense in this game, but I've seen the Bucks dominate much better defenses. It was a combination of the Magic playing good defense and the Bucks just being cold. But hey, give the Magic credit. They took a game. I don't think anyone really expected it. You want to tell me that the Bucks were looking past the Magic? Alright, you can tell me that. But the Bucks are now in the hole. Doesn't matter if the Bucks weren't going at 100%. That's not an excuse. They should have been going at 100%. They didn't, according to your logic. And now they're 3 games away from being eliminated. I don't think they're going to be eliminated. But the moral of the story is you shouldn't look past any opponent in any circumstance. Moving on now to Heat Pacers. And this was a really, really tough game for the Pacers. I said yesterday that TJ Warren couldn't do it by himself. He needed help. Warren played well, 22 points and 8 rebounds, but he wasn't Bubble Jesus. He needed his teammates to step up. And look, Malcolm Brogdon had a really good game. He had a double-double. He should have been better from beyond the arc. He was only 1 for 6. But he had a double-double. He was doing something right. And Miles Turner nearly had a double-double. 9 points, 9 rebounds. The reason why I said this was a tough loss is because the reason the Pacers lost this game was because Victor Oladipo got hurt. And it was through no fault of his own. He got poked in the eye completely by accident. That was inadvertent, but look, the simple fact is you can't expect guys like Edmund Sumner, Jakar Sampson, and TJ McConnell to do what Oladipo can do. I'm not saying those guys are bad players, but Oladipo's just better than them. It's not even close. Oladipo was doing a really good job of getting to the free throw line, drawing contact. He was playing good defense. And right when he got hurt, that whole game changed. The Heat took advantage. Butler went off in the fourth quarter. Playoff Jimmy Butler showed up. I didn't think it would, but it did. Give him a ton of credit. Bam Adebayo had a double-double. Goran Dragic found the fountain of youth. Dropped 24. 4 for 9 from beyond the arc. Great game for Dragic. Tyler Hero, 15 points off the bench. Iguodala was playing good defense. Kelly Olynyk had a really good game. Duncan Robinson didn't have a great game, but the Pacers still had to respect him, and it opened up opportunities for other players. If Oladipo had played this whole game, there's a good chance that the Pacers would have won this game. Unfortunately, he's now day-to-day with an eye injury. I mean, I hate it when injuries happen, especially in the playoffs. You want everyone at 100%. You just do, and when it's something fluky, like getting poked in the eye, that just makes it worse. This was a tough loss for the Pacers. They had a big opportunity to win this game, and through no fault of their own, they couldn't. Moving on now to Thunder Rockets. And yesterday I said that the Rockets didn't need to reinvent the wheel. Just stick with what got you here. Well, they listened to me. Because they were shooting the ball like crazy. They attempted 52 threes. And they were pretty efficient with it too. They hit 20 of them. That's 38%. That's pretty darn good. I'll take that. James Harden was insane. What else is new? Eric Gordon had a great game. If Eric Gordon can do what he did yesterday consistently, watch out. I mean, realize when Westbrook comes back, Gordon's just going to slide over to the 3. They'll move Daniel House to the bench. Gordon's a guy with talent. He's just never been able to put it together 100%. I remember when he was the best player on the Hornets. Those were tough games to watch. But he's found a really nice niche for himself. Give him credit. He played great. And so did Jeff Green. Jeff Green is an infuriating player. One game, he plays great. The next game, he plays terribly. I mean, since the restart, he's actually been pretty consistent. But historically, that's what Green's been. A maddeningly inconsistent player. Well, the Rockets got great Jeff Green here. 22 points off the bench. He was the third leading scorer in the game. 8 for 12 from the field. 3 for 7 from beyond the arc. The Rockets just have scorers. They have scorers for days. Harden, Westbrook, Gordon, Green, McLemore. They have a bunch of guys that are capable of just going off on any given day. And when the Rockets are at their best, they get 2 or 3 of those guys going off in the same night. When they get those guys cooking, they're unbeatable. I mean, I give the Thunder credit from an offensive standpoint, they were solid. I loved how they got Steven Adams involved. They constantly had mismatches with him. And they gave him the rock. He attempted 13 shots. Had 17 points and 12 rebounds. I'll take that. Chris Paul did his thing. Nearly had a triple-double. 1 assist away from it. Danilo Gallinari was insane. 29 points. Who saw that coming? The guy who I'm going to really pin this loss on is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was atrocious defensively, atrocious offensively. Only 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 3 from beyond the arc. You've got to be better than that if you're Shai. Dennis Schroeder, too, wasn't that good. 3 for 12 from the field, 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Those are guys that the Thunder need to have contributing if they're going to win games in this series, especially with Russell Westbrook out. What did I say yesterday? The Thunder need to exploit the absence of Westbrook. They couldn't do it. I thought they had a good offensive game plan, but Shai and Schroeder no-showing? Yeah, that was surprising. Moving on now to Trailblazers-Lakers, another crazy upset. Look, I gave the Trailblazers a game, but I didn't think that game would be game 1. Damian Lillard just keeps being Damian Lillard, and he's unstoppable. I mean, late in the game, it's Dame time. The 36-footer that he shot. I mean, I'm watching it, and one part of me is thinking, this is going to go in. The other part of me is thinking, this is a terrible shot. What is he doing? But of course it went in. That's what Logo Lillard does. You've got to pick him up from half court. If you don't, he's going to make you pay. CJ McCollum was really good. He had 21 points. Melo had a double-double. I give him credit. He played LeBron tough. LeBron still had his, but Melo was playing him hard. And Yusuf Nurkic had a double-double. What would concern me about this game for the Blazers going forward is the amount of minutes that they all played. Lillard played 43. McCollum played 42. Melo played 38. Nurkic played 33. That's not sustainable. If you keep asking them to do that, eventually the well is gonna run dry. I mean, I'd say give the Trailblazers credit, but I don't even think they played great in this game. I'm not saying they were bad, but they weren't exceptional. This was a case of the Lakers just playing awfully. They played like absolute garbage. They couldn't put a beach ball in the ocean. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They couldn't hit a shot to save their lives. They were garbage from beyond the arc. 5 for 32 from 3. That doesn't work. 35% from the field. That's inexcusable. You put that number into perspective, the Lakers were the best team in the NBA this year in terms of field goal percentage. I'm not kidding, they were at the top of the league with 48%. They shot 35% in a playoff game. Outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, you couldn't trust anyone. KCP had the worst game I've ever seen from him. 0 for 9 from the field. 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Danny Green 2 for 8 from 3. Kuzma 1 for 5 from 3. Caruso 1 for 6 from the field. 0 for 3 from 3. You have to be kidding me. They were garbage. They had opportunities to win this game. To put this game away, they just had to hit shots. They couldn't. They were playing well defensively, but they just couldn't get that dagger. They couldn't hit that shot that when it fell, you knew the game was over. It's great if you're going to play great defense, but you've got to be able to turn it into points. Otherwise, what's the point of getting defensive stops? At the end of the day, you still need to be able to score to win. You can have a great defense. I'm not saying, play Ole defense, but for God's sake, can you hit a three, please? LeBron James, as great as he was, triple-double, set a career high for assists in a playoff game with 16. Was 1 for 5 from 3. Anthony Davis, double-double. Beast defensively. 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Their shooting was horrific. It was like they were playing a carnival game. You know those carnival games where you have to shoot an oversized ball into an undersized hoop to win a prize? That's what it looked like the Lakers were doing. This is the worst I've ever seen them play from an offensive perspective. I mean, they're not a great three-point shooting team anyway, but they're better than this. If I was a Lakers fan, I'd be ticked off about this loss. Alright, now it's time to preview today's 4 games. I really like how the NBA is doing this. They're not having any back-to-backs like the NHL. I understand that the NBA has that luxury because they have multiple arenas. The NHL really doesn't. I know they have 2 arenas, 1 for each conference, but that's still 1 for each conference. That's not a second arena. It just makes it easier to follow, easier to track. Good job by Adam Silver, really. There are people saying that there should be a 30 for 30 about the NBA's reckoning with the coronavirus and persevering through it. I would drop everything to watch that. But regardless, I have to talk about Nets Raptors. For the Nets, the number one thing is transition defense. Don't worry about offensive rebounds. Alright? The Raptors are a much better rebounding team. They have Siakam, they have Gasol, they have Ibaka. No matter what the Nets do, they're not going to be able to out-rebound the Raptors. So don't even try it. Their biggest issue defensively was transition defense. So take your shot and then run back on D. Don't let them get easy baskets. If that means slowing the game down yourself, I don't mind that. But you can't allow easy rim runs. You can't allow wide open transition threes. And also, just be more disciplined. Don't take that many fouls. The Raptors attempted 33 free throws on Monday. They hit 32 of them. And part of that was because the Nets were trying to recover from not getting back on D. They had to foul guys to make them earn their points. The thing is, they were earning their points. Get back on D, get your hands up, get in legal guarding positions, and you'll be fine. The baskets will come. Defense is going to win this game for the Nets. As for the Raptors, it's too obvious to just say run, run, run. So, while that's obviously a part of it, I'll point to guys like Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. Neither one of them played well. Lowry 3 for 14 from the field, 3 for 10 from beyond the arc. Siakam 4 for 13 from the field, 1 for 4 from beyond the arc. Yeah, he had a double-double, but I've seen Siakam play a lot better than that. I mean, realize it wasn't Siakam and Lowry that were killing the Nets. It was Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka, who may be a Net next year. My God, I'd love that. It's too obvious to say run more fast break plays and make the Nets foul you so you can get to the free throw line. So instead, I'll say that they need to get their two best players going in Siakam and Lowry. Moving on now to Jazz Nuggets. And the Jazz just need to give Donovan Mitchell help. It's again, one great player can't do it by himself. He needs help. Rudy Gobert disappeared in overtime on Monday. He was invisible. He was atrocious. He's the Stifle Tower. He's a double-double threat. He has to act like it. I mean, I give Joe Ingles credit. He played well. Jordan Clarkson could have shot the ball better from beyond the arc. See, the thing with the Jazz is, look at who they're starting. Yes, Gobert, Mitchell, and Ingles are quality players. But Jawan Morgan and Royce O'Neal aren't going to inspire a lot of confidence in you. Royce O'Neal is a solid defender. And Jawan Morgan, truthfully, I don't know that much about him. I'm not going to lie to you. But I can tell you that they really miss Mike Conley. And they really miss Ed Davis. They need more scoring. It's just that simple. I don't know how they're going to get it. I don't know who's going to step up. I can say set pick and rolls, run ISO plays, get the ball in the low post and let Gobert go to work. But at the end of the day, you have to trust someone to hit that shot. Besides Mitchell, Gobert, Ingles, and Clarkson, even though he wasn't great on Monday, I don't trust anyone on the Jazz offensively. As for the Nuggets, I really want them to utilize Nikola Jokic's passing more. He only had 3 assists. They put the ball in Jamal Murray's hands a lot. So, if I'm Mike Malone, I'm saying to my guys, okay, we put the ball in Jamal Murray's hands a lot. And he played great. Not knocking him at all. But they're going to be expecting that. We have another great passer on this team. And it's Nikola Jokic. The best passing big man in the NBA. Zion is close, but it's still Jokic. Let's utilize him. Let's run our offense through him. I'm playing chess here. When the Jazz are going to be playing checkers. I think they're going to be expecting Jamal Murray to be the primary ball handler. I want the Nuggets to run their offense through the Joker. Moving on now to Sixers-Celtics. And the Sixers need to get more from Al Horford. It's just that simple. Al Horford has been a major disappointment for the Sixers so far. Everyone else on the team played well on Monday. They had every opportunity to win that game. But in 31 minutes, Horford only had 6 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. I like the rebounds and assists, but the point total is dreadful. he has to produce. Also, look for them to exploit the absence of Gordon Hayward. He has a sprained ankle. He's going to miss 4 weeks. So needless to say, he's out for this series. That changes things. That's a huge hole that the Celtics now have. What they're probably going to do, don't take this as gospel, but what they're probably going to do is slide Brown over to the 3 and put Marcus Smart in at the 2. So Tobias Harris is going to be working on Jaylen Brown. Maybe Al Horford too. That's a mismatch. The Sixers can capitalize on that. I would go to that religiously if I was the Sixers. That and the mismatch that they have in the low post with Joel Embiid going up against Daniel Tice, Robert Williams, and Enes Kanter. As for the Celtics, I want them to get Kemba Walker a little more involved. It's great that Tatum and Brown are balling out. Let them get theirs. But I want Kemba to really step up. If Marcus Smart just plays great perimeter defense and shuts down Josh Richardson and Alec Burks, or at the very least slows them down, I'm okay with that. Kemba Walker needs to show up. He needs to ball out now that Hayward's out. Make no mistake about it, that's a big loss. Hayward was playing well for the Celtics. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He was really good defensively. I mean, the Celtics aren't going to miss that much because they have Marcus Smart. But they still need to replace that offense. And I want Kemba Walker to really step up here. Let Tatum, Brown, and Walker be the big 3. Moving on now to Mavericks Clippers. And for the Mavericks, it's really simple. You have to keep Kristaps Porzingis in the game. If Porzingis stays in that game, the Mavericks win. Easily. We can argue about whether he should have been ejected or not. All we want, alright? That's not the issue. That's in the past. But the simple fact is he was out of the game. And with that went a big part of the Mavericks offense. Yes, Luka is Luka and he's going to do Luka things. But he needs that stretch 4. That is Porzingis. He needs to stay in this game and play 35 minutes. As for the Clippers, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. Don't reinvent the wheel. Luka is going to get his no matter what. You can only hope to really slow him down. I mean, the one thing I would say is double him when he makes his drive, but he would just kick it out to a guy like Porzingis or Hardaway or Curry. Those guys are great shooters. I mean, the one thing I would say is there's logic to saying to them, look, we want you to take that shot. We want to make you hit that shot. We know Luka is going to kill us. We don't know if you guys are going to kill us. So maybe just change that element of it, but otherwise, the Clippers played their game. It's a game that I think is going to propel them to the NBA title. I think they're fine. I really, really do. Alright, now it's time for hockey. And I'll start with Flyers Canadiens. Neither team supported their goalie that much. That's what I said they needed to do yesterday. But you know what? When you have a goalie as great as Carter Hart, maybe you don't need to support him. He's playing that great right now. He is sensational. There's no other word for it. Sensational, phenomenal, transcendent, whatever word you want to use. Back-to-back playoff shutouts. I don't care that it's coming against a bad offensive team in the Canadiens. That still takes a ton of talent. Carter Hart is playing incredibly excellent hockey. There's no other way to describe it. He's doing things that you couldn't possibly dream of. If you're a Flyers fan, you have to be doing backflips right now. The old adage, all it takes is a hot goalie. There's no hotter goalie in the NHL right now than Carter Hart. It wouldn't surprise me if you rode him all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. As for the Canadiens, they played the best they could. They weren't bad at all. They lost a lot of face-offs, but they got 29 shots on net. They got quality scoring opportunities. They're just not as good as the Flyers. They just don't have the players necessary to beat Carter Hart consistently. Like I said, Game 2 was a fluke. I really think he just had some bad shrimp. Moving on now to Flames Stars. And this fits the pattern of Cam Talbot being good after being bad. So that doesn't surprise me too much. The one thing I would say is I did say that these teams needed to play 60 minutes of quality hockey. And neither team really did. The Stars played 42 minutes of quality hockey. The Flames played 18 minutes of quality hockey. After Klingberg scored that third period goal, it just seemed like the Stars were content to play defense. They trusted Anton Khudobin. And that takes guts. Because Khudobin played like garbage in Game 4. But give him credit. He stood on his head, made 28 saves. The thing with the Flames is they really miss Matthew Tkachuk. He got sandwiched between two big stars in Game 2. He's still not right. He gives the Flames a really good two-way player. Sometimes he gets a little dirty, but it's close. He's not a bad player. You just have some moments that you want to strangle him. He's like Matthew Barzal in that sense. Who has been playing a lot better. He still rags the puck a little too much, but he's getting better. Tkachuk really isn't. Like I said, moments where you want to slap some sense into him. Speaking of Matthew Barzal, I did say that the Islanders would eliminate the Capitals yesterday, and I was wrong. Barry Trotz said this in his post-game press conference, and he is 100% right. After the Islanders got out to that quick 2-0 lead, they got complacent. They didn't push. everyone affiliated with the Islanders, and that includes fans, I thought the Islanders were going to win that game after they were up 2. You know, they thought that there's no way the Islanders are going to blow this. Well, look, when you only have 13 shots in the second and third periods combined, you have a really good chance of blowing a 2-goal lead. And keep in mind, that 2-goal lead was in the first period. This wasn't like a 2-goal lead late in the third period. No, it's the first period. A goal a period, the Capitals tie it. That's not a safe lead. I don't care how great the Islanders are defensively. In the first period, that's not a safe lead. And the power play, the freaking power play, 0 for 5. Kick Jim Hiller out of the bubble now. You'd have a better chance of finding some bum begging for money in the middle of Toronto and having him run the Islanders' power play and seeing them be successful than if Jim Hiller was running it. This guy is clueless. This guy is inept. I don't care if the Islanders win the Stanley Cup this year. Jim Hiller needs to go. He was a Lou Lamoriello import, for whatever it's worth. Lamoriello worked with him in Toronto. He was not a Barry Trotz guy. He was a Lamoriello guy. Another genius Lamoriello move. And Scott Mayfield. Scott freaking Mayfield. A guy who I actually thought could have been important for the Islanders, because he gave them some physicality on the blue line, but he played like garbage in this game. He took a stupid delay of game penalty. He screened his own goalie. He was dreadful. Scratch him and put in Boychuk. Move Leddy up to the second line because Leddy's been playing really well. And with Cal Clutterbuck maybe being out, he didn't play in the third period. God only knows what's going to happen with him going forward. But hopefully this compels Trotz to put in Ross Johnston. He'll go right up to Tom Wilson and he won't let him mess with the Islanders anymore. My God, is Wilson a dirty player. Can we please kick him out of the league? Please, before he kills someone? Look, the Capitals played great in this game. Right after the timeout, the Capitals got their heads screwed on straight. Ovechkin finally got cooking. Give them credit. They were by far and away the better team. The Islanders didn't play well, but the Capitals played really great. The one thing I would say to the Islanders is, don't let this upset you. You're still in the driver's seat. Just focus on Game 5. Don't worry about Game 4. Put it in the back of your mind. And focus on beating them tomorrow. The last game to talk about yesterday is Blackhawks Golden Knights. A really exciting game if you like a bunch of goals. And I like a bunch of goals. I like shootouts, but look, it was tough for me to get into this game. A, because I didn't think the Blackhawks were really good. But B, both teams played like absolute trash. Offensive zone giveaways. Goalies playing like garbage. This wasn't a case of two great offenses going at it. This was a case of two teams really playing bad from a defensive perspective. And the Golden Knights were just better. They are the better team than the Blackhawks. That's why they won. It's not because of anything the Golden Knights did special. It's because they're better than the Blackhawks. At least I got that right. The one thing I'll say for the Golden Knights is going forward, they may want to start Marc-Andre Fleury because he played great in Game 3, and Lehner has been kind of shaky recently. Games 2, 4, and 5, he really didn't play that well. If I'm Pete DeBoer, I'd give a ton of thought to starting Fleury. Alright, now it's time to preview today's 5 NHL games. 4 of these games are potential elimination games. If the Lightning, Bruins, Avalanche, and Flyers win, that's it. Series over. Canucks Blues is down to a best 2 out of 3. For the Blue Jackets, they need someone to step up and just ball out. In this series, the Blue Jackets have only scored 8 goals. That's not going to work. Jonas Korpisalo has been great. He stood on his head, but you have to support him. I'm looking at a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, or Gustav Nyquist, or Zach Werenski, or Oliver Bjorkstrand, or Nick Foligno, or Seth Jones, or Cam Atkinson, to really step up and put the Blue Jackets on their back and carry them to victory. As for the Lightning, keep playing the game the right way. They've been really gritty, really tenacious. The line of Barclay Goodrow, Yanni Gourde, and Blake Coleman has been really good this whole series. I'm looking for guys like Kucherov and Hedman to really step up in this game to just put this series away. But keep playing the game the right way and you'll get the job done. That's how you've gotten this far in the first place. Moving on now to Hurricanes Bruins. And the Hurricanes need to learn how to close out games. They had Game 4 in the bag. They were up 2 in the third period. That's a game that you should be expected to win. 2-goal leads in the first period, not safe. 2-goal leads in the third period, usually safe. But Rod Brind'Amour got incredibly outcoached by Bruce Cassidy. I hope he put his thinking cap on and came up with ways to keep this team motivated in the third period. Because that is why they lost Game 4. It's just that simple. They only had 2 shots in that whole period. Incredibly, one went in. I don't know how that happened. As for the Bruins, play with a sense of reckless abandon. That's what you did in the third period of Game 4, and it worked. You overwhelmed the Hurricanes. Be really aggressive on your forecheck. Finish your checks. Force the Hurricanes into making bad decisions. And if you pepper James Reimer or Peter Mrazek enough, they'll fold. Moving on now to Coyotes Avalanche. The Coyotes are pretty much dead. I don't see how they come back from their dismal Game 4 performance where they gave up 7 goals. It was a good run. They had a great offense clicking against the Predators. And Kemper had some moments where he looked really good, but now I just think the Avalanche have adapted too much. Jared Bednar is coaching circles around Rick Tocchet. I think the Avalanche have this series in the bag. I really do. I don't think there's much that the Coyotes can do here. As for the Avalanche, don't get complacent. Still play 60 quality minutes of hockey. You're the best team in the Western Conference, in my opinion. Play like it. Keep your foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal. Keep your foot on the throat of the Coyotes, and you'll finish them off. It's just that simple. Moving on now to Canadiens Flyers. I'll say what I said yesterday. Both teams need to support their goalie. I don't think you can expect Carter Hart to pitch a third straight shutout. And you've got to give Carey Price some support. Look, neither team has played well offensively in this series. The Flyers only have 5 goals, and the Canadiens only have 6, 5 of which came in one game. So in 3 of the 4 games, they only scored 1 goal. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. Both teams need to get their offense cooking. It's just that simple. I want to see a 4-0 victory here. That would make me really happy. That goes for the Canadiens and the Flyers. The last game to talk about today is Canucks Blues. And for the Canucks, get more physical. The Blues are asserting themselves in the corners. They're forcing turnovers. They're making really good passes. And they're capitalizing on their opportunities. If you're the Canucks, get the puck out quickly. Don't let them kill you with their board play. The Blues have done a great job of getting back to what won them the Stanley Cup last year. The way to counter it is to not let them kill you on the boards. Pass the puck quickly. Get out in open ice as quickly as you can. You're a better team from a finesse standpoint. Utilize that strength. As for the Blues, keep wearing them down. Keep finishing your checks. Keep forcing those turnovers. Keep mucking it up in the corners. Jake Allen is playing fantastically. He's playing like Jordan Binnington played last year. That's how great he is right now. If you keep up your great physical play, I'm looking at guys like Braden Shen, who's had a great series. Zach Sanford, really underrated player for the Blues. Ivan Barbashev also. Even a guy like Sammy Blais. Wear the Canucks down. Force them into making bad decisions, into turning the puck over, and you'll win your 3rd straight game. Despite the 4 games that happened yesterday in the NHL, that wasn't the biggest hockey story that broke yesterday. The biggest hockey story was the absolutely tragic death of Dale Hawerchuk, who died way too young from stomach cancer at the age of 57. He had been sick for a while. It seemed like everything was okay from the outside, but as people have told their stories, it seemed like in the last few days or so, Hawerchuk knew that he was at the end of the line. If there's such a thing as an underrated Hall of Famer, that is Dale Hawerchuk. When you think of the best players of the 80s and 90s, you think of guys like Gretzky and Messier and Pavel Bure and Lanny McDonald and Cam Neely and Paul Coffey and Yari Curry, Pat LaFontaine, Pierre Turgeon, guys like that. It would take you a while to get to Dale Hawerchuk, and that's such a tragedy. Because this guy was, without question, one of the best players of his era. The reason why he isn't remembered as well as he should be is because he spent the first 9 years of his career with the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets, in Hawerchuk's time with the team, were never a serious playoff threat. Hawerchuk made the playoffs in 8 of his 9 years with the Jets. In only 2 of those years, 84-85 and 86-87, did the Jets win a playoff series. Both of those victories came against the Flames, and right after that, they got swept by the Oilers. The Oilers destroyed the Jets in the 80s in the playoffs. It's like the old Yankees-Dodgers rivalry in the 40s and 50s. Except the Jets never had a year when they beat the Oilers. The Oilers always beat the Jets. But let me tell you, those playoff losses weren't because of Hawerchuk. In every year that he was with the Jets, he was a point-a-game player. And in the playoffs, he was a point-a-game player. This guy was insane. This guy came into the league at 18 years of age and put up 45 goals and 103 points. Immediately, he established himself as one of the best players in the game. And he kept doing it year after year after year. He just couldn't get past the second round. He just couldn't get past the Oilers. At the 1990 NHL draft, the Jets traded Hawerchuk in one of the biggest trades in hockey history. It was Hawerchuk and the 14th overall pick, which was used to select Brad May to the Sabres for Phil Housley, Scott Arniel, Jeff Parker, and the 19th overall pick, which was used on Keith Tkachuk. In the 3 years before Hawerchuk got to the Sabres, they had made the playoffs, but didn't do anything. They only won a total of 5 games. So by bringing in Hawerchuk to a core that included Pierre Turgeon, Alexander McGillney, and Dave Andreychuk, as a Sabres fan, you have to be doing backflips. We're instantly better now. We're gonna make it out of the first round. Well, that didn't happen in Hawerchuk's first 2 years with the Sabres. They played their opponents tough, They lost to the Canadiens in 6 games in 91, and they lost to the Bruins in 7 games in 92. But it wasn't until the 92-93 season when they swept the Bruins, only to then get swept by the Canadiens. So Dale Hawerchuk continued his streak of never winning a playoff game in the second round. Once again, though, it wasn't his fault. He was a point-a-game player. He was a point-a-game player in the regular season and the playoffs until the 94-95 season. He got hurt, and it really sapped his effectiveness. He was still good, but he wasn't great. He played 23 games in the 94-95 season and had 16 points. After that, he signed with the Blues in free agency, but was traded to the Flyers at the 96 trade deadline. With the Flyers, he'd have his best chance of winning a Stanley Cup. The Flyers beat the Lightning in 6 games, and then took the Panthers to 6 games. So it took Dale Hawerchuk 15 years to win a playoff game in the second round. Like I said, he didn't play for great teams. Then the year after that, the Flyers go on a great run in the playoffs. They beat the Penguins, Sabres, and Rangers in that order in 5 games to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, only to get swept by the Red Wings. Like I said, Hawerchuk was good, but not the Hawerchuk of old. He retired after that season because he had a bad hip. And it is such a huge tragedy that he only played in the conference finals and the Stanley Cup Finals once. His last year. I never met him, but from everything I've heard, he was a gem of a guy. Butch Goring spoke very highly of him during the Islanders game yesterday. Serge Savard made some really nice comments. So did Pierre Maguire. He was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2001. Rightfully so. I mean, I understand that he didn't have a lot of playoff success. But he finished with 518 goals and 1,409 points. If that doesn't get you into the Hall of Fame, I don't know what does. He was taken from us way too soon. May he rest in peace. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that there are baked potatoes in North Carolina that are bigger than Bip Roberts.